one, I don't know how familiar you guys are with mixed martial arts, but I was known because I was champion in mixed martial art. But one thing that most people don't know about me is that I don't like to fight. I never liked it. What I did all my life, fighting, is something that I hate. And I hate it to the most that I can. So it's very strange for most people to realize that when I say this coming from a champion in mixed martial art who says that he hates fighting, because it's a love-hate relationship. I did it because I was very good at it, but I did it because I wanted to obtain my freedom, to obtain the life that I had. I used that to propel myself where I wanted to be in life, but I never liked it. And it all started for me much differently than when it is right now. Growing up as a kid, I had a lot of problems. I was a very different person than I am now. When I was a kid, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I didn't like what I was seeing. I was seeing a kid who lacked a lot of confidence. I used to carry myself much differently. And the reason why I first started to do karate is because I was a victim of bullying. So instead of the teacher was explaining in front of the class, I was more focused on trying to figure out how I'm going to get to my locker, pick up my book, and reach the bus before the bullying get to me and beat me up. So that was something that happened to me every day back then. I started to do karate as a self-defense. And then later on, it transformed into a passion because when you start something and you like it, you become good at it. You become good, of course, if you put the work into it. And I used to like it. And it changes me. It changes me from the inside out. At the time when I was young, I wanted to change my environment. I was always complaining, oh, I'm a victim, I'm a victim of bullying, but what I did not realize is I needed to change myself before changing my environment. And that's what karate taught me. Karate taught me to, when I someone, I look at him in the eyes. When I shake someone's hands, I have a firm handshake, which is something that I did not do early on. I was always looking down, and I was carrying myself in a not confident way, which made me a victim. Because bullies at school are a little bit like predatory animal. A lion, for example, is never going to hunt the alpha bull. They're going to take on the weak. And the bully are the same way. They always go after the weak. They don't go after the strong. And karate taught me how to stand and how to carry myself with respect. And I wish I could tell you that I get rid of bullying because I beat up all my bullies, but that's not how it happened. Yes, I had to defend myself a few times, but I get rid of it because I learned how to carry myself with confidence. And I used that through all my life, and it brought me success. Confidence, there's ways to build up confidence. And I think it's very important that every one of you learn how to build up your confidence. Because you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't have confidence that comes with it, it's a little bit like someone who has a lot of money in his bank account, but no way of accessing it. It's useless. So you need the skills, but you need also the confidence. It's very important in everything you do in life. And very often I'm asked the question, hey George, before a fight, are you afraid? I'm like, yeah, I was afraid before every fight that I had. I was terrified. And the reason why I never liked to fight is because it's unbearable to me, not knowing if I will get humiliated, badly hurt, or winning the ultimate prize. So the thing I did to increase my odds of success is I built up my confidence. And remember, confidence is not the absence of fear. When you say you're confident, then that doesn't mean you're not afraid. That means you know that you have what it needs, that you know you have what you need in order to succeed. It's not the absence of fear. And there's no courage without fear. Before every fight that I had, I was scared. I was extremely uncomfortable. Deep down inside, I wanted to cry. But if you look at the videos of me leading up to the fight, I carry myself with confidence. It's very important. I put on a mask. And I had the right to do so because I put in the work. That would be something else. If I would not put in the work, I would not be confident. And the way you build up your confidence, it's by putting in the work. I was champion, I was the best, not because I was the most talented. I was the best, I believe, because yeah, I was talented, but there was guys that were just as talented as me. I work hard, there's guys that work perhaps just as hard as me. But one thing that made the difference is that I was willing to get out of my comfort zone in order to improve. I remember a time when I was a teenager. I was about 16 years old. Around that time, the sport was not very popular. And the media was talking about it like it's human cockfighting. It was like not a real sport. And I grew up next to Kanawage, First Nation community. And they held the first mixed martial art event in Canadian soil at the time. Because it was illegal, so they did it there. And I was 16 years old, and I was curious. I wanted to see. I was already a black belt in karate, and I wanted to get into this, so I wanted to see it with my own eyes. So I sneaked in. I had some friend in the community that got me in, and I remember I saw it with my own eyes, and I got inspired. And that's how everything started from me. I knew that's what I wanted to do. It was a dream. But at the time, I was talking about it to my friends, and they were laughing at me. They were like, George, there's no way you're gonna fight in mixed martial art. You're a normal, an average person. You know, you got picked on at school, you know. These guys are beasts, you know. There's no way you can go with these guys. And they were all laughing at me. So I remember I needed, in order to improve, I needed to get out of my comfort zone. And I started researching where I can, because I was already a black belt in karate, and I knew I needed to learn jiu-jitsu, the grappling, the art of grappling. So I started to research where is the best jiu-jitsu school, and it turns out it was in New York. I was 16 years old. Back then I couldn't speak English very well. Like, my English is still not very good, but it used to be way worse back then. So I knew that I needed to go to New York in order to improve. Even though it was outside of my comfort zone, I was willing to take the risk. So I decided to go to New York. I had two friends at the time that were supposed to come with me who are professional fighters. And I remember only one of them spoke English at the time. So the day before we're supposed to leave, he canceled on me. And then because he canceled on me, the other guy canceled on me as well, and I ended up by myself. And I was thinking, at that time I was broke, I didn't have money. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Taking a risk to go to New York from my little town, following MapQuest, because remember back then we didn't have Waze, we didn't have GPS like we have today. So I had to look at a card and try to follow the the road. So I said to myself, I said, you know what? I'm still going, you know? It was a big risk. I took a big risk. I was broke. I had just enough money to make it, to find a place to sleep, pay for the food and everything. And I remember I lost myself in the Bronx. I used to speak better Spanish and English back then, so I asked people, hey, ¿Dónde está Manhattan? Where is Manhattan? Because I needed to find my way to the Henzo Gracie School. Well, I went there. When I first arrived at Henzo Gracie School, I was already a black belt in karate, so in striking I was good, but that was jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is different. It's the art of grappling. So I remember the first time I sparred with someone there. The guy was 20 pounds lighter than me. And he beat me up so bad, like he made me tap. In jiu-jitsu, when you got caught in an armbar or choke, you have to tap. He made me tap like 5 times in 5 minutes. He beat me up so bad that I lost all my confidence. And when I talk to you about confidence, I was on the brink of giving up. So it made me realize that I still have a lot to learn. And I remember driving back after my trip to New York, I'm thinking, man, I'm never gonna reach that level. Like, these guys are so good at. But I told myself, I said, you know what? I need to go back in there and train with the best. If you want to be the best, you have to train with the best. You need to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. For every one of you, if you have a dream in mind, you cannot stay here and hoping the dream would come true. If you want something, you have to make the effort. You have to get out of your comfort zone in order to pursue your dream. This is one thing that allowed me to have success in my career. Where people were not ready to get out of the comfort zone to improve, I did it, and that's why I surpassed them. And this is one thing that brought me success in my life. Confidence, how to build up confidence by hard work and being willing to get out of your comfort zone. I know a lot of you might have questions for me, and I want to make sure I take some time to answer your question before we start taking pictures and signing autograph. So the way we're doing it, I'm not sure if you want to raise your hand, or if someone have a mic, go with the mic, or we can do it like this. If someone have a question for me, raise your hand, and I will answer your question. It will be my pleasure. Yes. Oh, okay, we have a mic for you. It's gonna makes it easy. Don't be shy. I'm here to answer your question to meet you guys.
I need you to just raise your hand if you have a question, and we will let you. We'll bring the mic to you so that everybody can hear the question. All right, guys?
There's one right there.
Question? No.
I know it might be uncomfortable to ask a question in front of everybody, but if you want me to ask your question, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Remember. Yeah, there's one right there. What's that question? Oh yeah.
George St. Pierre, what was your toughest fight?
My toughest fight, that's a good question. My toughest fight was my first fight against BJ Penn. BJ Penn, he was probably also the best fighter that I've fought. They call him the Prodigy. He's from Hawaii. He's an Hawaiian fighter. He was the first American to become champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he did it in 3 years. Still today, we have never seen anything like it. He was so skilled, so good. And I remember my first fight with him was very, very tight. It was a very close fight. I fought him twice. The first fight was very tight. I ended up winning in the decision, but I got really hurt. My nose was bloody. My shin was hurt. I had to go to the hospital after the fight, but turns out that after a few days I was back 100%. But it was my toughest fight. Yes, sir.
weight division?
So my weight division, I competed at 74 kilo, which is 170 pounds. But I also competed in my last fight at the Madison Square Garden. I fought the champion who's in the heavier weight class division, was Michael Bisping at the time at Madison Square Garden, New York, and I beat him, and I became champion at that weight class as well. Then after I retired. And one thing to consider, when I talk about a weight class, it's not the weight that I'm walking around. Before a fight, the weigh-in is always before the fight. We lose weight to make the weight, and then after we gain back the weight. So I competed at 170 pounds, but now I walk around 185 pounds because we all lose weight to make the weight to be at the weight limit, and then after we gain back the weight. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how we do. That's how all combat sport athletes do. Yes.
Did you meet one of your bullies at Montreal and you ended up giving your wallet to him?
Yes, true story. A few years after, a few years back, I'm driving my car in the city of Montreal, and I stop in a red light, and I see someone like cleaning up the windshield, and he's begging for money. And I look at him. He's one of the guys that used to bully me, and he used to beat me up in the bus. I can't say his name, but he was beating me up in the bus. And when I see him, he see me, and I can see in his eyes that he remember. Now he knows who I am and what I become. And I'm like, I told him, wait a second. Then I went on the side, and I can see in his body he was scared. He thought I was about to get out of my vehicle to beat him up, but that's not what I did. I walk up to him. I say, what happened to you? Like, how did you end up like this? And I remember something that happened when I was young, because he used to beat me up in a school, in a bus, and I used to come back home with some mark. And my dad one day, I never said anything to my parents, but my dad one day put me against the wall and say, you gotta tell me what's going on, because your results at school are suffering. Like, what's going on? And I told him, I said, yeah, there's an older kid that picked me up in the bus, and he's much older than me. I can't fight back with him. He's stronger than me. So he told me who's the kid, and I told him who it is. And I'm from a small town, so everybody knows everybody. So my dad did the unthinkable. He went to the kid's house, knocked at the door, and talked to the dad who opened the door. And say, can you please tell your son to stop beating up my son, because he needs to focus on school. So of course, the next day, as soon as I step in the bus, the kid is yelling at me from the back of the bus, hey, you went to snitch to your dad. And I'm like, oh God. And then I had to fight him again, and I got another beating. Anyway, when I met him in the street and he was begging, I remember something that my dad said to me when he went to the house. He says that we all knew that kid only lived with his dad. He didn't have his mom. I didn't remember what happened to his mom, but he lived with his dad, and his dad had a drinking problem. And we knew that his dad was hitting him, was beating him up. So I remember my dad telling me this story, and I was not angry at him, because I realized I was just a collateral damage. He learned how to communicate from his dad, or his dad was an alcoholic beating him up. So I was just a collateral damage, and I felt bad for him. Even though he beat me up, I felt bad, because in a way that was not his fault. He didn't learn anything better. So when I went to him, I gave him money, and I said, listen, I remember when we were young and you were a cool guy, everybody wanted to be like you, and now look at you, like, you're better than this. Like find yourself a job, do something, and it turns out after a few weeks after he went to my parents' house to talk to me. My mom and dad said George does not live at the house anymore, of course. But he said, hey, I want to say thank you to George because I found a job and he gave me a pep talk, so it made me feel very good. Like for me, it was a sweet revenge to help him out in a way. Yes. Question.
How long have you been fighting?
So I've been fighting professionally since I'm 19 years old. I retired when I was 36 and now I'm 43. But I started training martial art when I was 9 years old. 9 years old. Yes.
What's your most serious injury?
My most serious injury, that's physically, it's my ACL. My both knees I tear my ACL, so I had to undergo a surgery, but now my knees are better than they were because I had a good doctor and a good rehab. So thanks God, now I'm 100%. Yes.
Hello, George here. What did you do to balance your fight life, and then what did you do to balance on your emotional state when you were fighting in that kind of your work area, I guess, and then as opposed to when you did at home, I know, for example, when you wanted to fight, you trained harder, or when you're at home instead of training harder or anything, what else did you do to help yourself emotionally, physically, and mentally to balance yourself to where you?
It's an interesting question. How did I balance myself? I think it's very important to learn how to balance yourself in everything you do. Yes, I work really, really hard to be champion, but it's very important to understand that there is time to work, there is time to rest, and there is also time that you need to take for yourself and for the people that you love. Very important. You need to learn how to punch in and to punch out sometimes. And one analogy that I make is with a ruler, a 24-inch ruler. If you divide 24 by 3, it's 8. So 8 hours where you sleep, because there's 24 hours in a day. 8 hours where you sleep. 8 hours that you work on whatever you do for a living to accomplish your dream. Another 8 hours where you take times for yourself and for the people that you love and for your hobbies. That's how I divide my time. 8. 24 hours, I divide 8 to sleep, 8 to work, and 8 for myself, for the people I love, for whatever my passion, whatever I do in my free time.
How do you feel about becoming a legend?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're up. Oh, that right there, I can't, sorry, good.
How do you feel about becoming a legend?
How do I feel becoming a legend? Look, it happened so fast, because if I go back in time, a lot of you are too young. Maybe you were not there, but people of my generation remember that time. The sport was not known. It was not accepted by the mainstream media. We were barbarian. And I remember the first time I fought in Montreal, it was my rematch against Matt Serra. So I remember after my fight with Matt Serra, I was in the newspaper in Montreal. It was a picture in the newspaper of me on top of Matt Serra. It was written, "The barbarian overthrown the Montreal Canadiens," for the record of the crowd in the Bell Center. And the same media that called me barbarian are now that call me for interviews. So time has shifted. Now I think it has to do with education. Back then the media thought it was like like a bar fight. They didn't understand that there's a science behind it, and we're real professional, and that's what we do for a living. And I think around that time, that's when everything changed for me, in terms of popularity. But I was popular before, elsewhere, before I became popular in my hometown of Montreal. It's like I needed to be accepted as a legit athlete before I got accepted at home. It's kind of special sometimes to think of it. But I'm very blessed because my community, where I'm from, I grew up near in Saint-Star, Kanawaki, they always accept me like a real athlete, a real ambassador, and it makes me very proud. Yes?
Hi, GSP. I just want to ask, who's your favorite fighter, and would you like to be Treaty 6?
To what?
Would you like to be Treaty 6?
Be Treaty 6? Of course! My favorite fighter, his name is Royce Gracie. He's the one that inspired me. He's the one that won the first UFC tournament. And at the time, there were no weight class. You had to fight multiple times in one night, in order to win the tournament. It was completely insane. No rules. It was insane. So for me, he's my hero because he's the first one who ever done it. And he was not the biggest one. He looked like, he was not someone that was intimidating, but for me, it really inspired me because he did the impossible. And for me, when I was young, looking at him, it really inspired me to do what I've done, you know? Yes?
Where do you live?
I live in Quebec. I'm from a hometown, like a countryside. Oh my God, okay, this one is harder. It's louder. I'm from the countryside. I used to work on a farm in a country place. And I still live there. I had to go in the city sometime for business, and I travel a lot, but at the end of the day, when I go home, I like to go in a place where it's calm, outside of the city, when I can have some space to stretch and to breathe some fresh air. For me, it's important. That's where I feel better. Yes?
What was your favorite fight?
My favorite fight that I did, I think it's an interesting one. There's few of them, but I think one that I did that was a good performance was the one when the first time I won the world title against Matt Hughes. It was one of my favorite because Matt Hughes was my biggest rival, and he was champion for many, many years. He was a legend. He was seen like unbeatable to many people. And he beat me the first time I fought him, but I beat him the second time and the third time. But my second fight with him was my favorite fight because it was the first time I became world champion, and it was a dream come true that finally materialized to me. Yes?
When practicing, which is more important to you, attitude or consistency?
When you practice, when you train, first, I think there's many phases that you need to go through. First, you need a commitment. It all starts with a commitment. A commitment is like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and it starts now, and from now on, I'm gonna follow this path, I'm gonna do this sacrifice, and you need a commitment. Commit first. Once you commit, you need consistency and discipline. Because if you don't have the consistency and discipline, you're never gonna finish. If you never have a commitment, you're never gonna start, and if you don't have consistency and discipline, you're never gonna finish. So I think these are very important steps to take. And it's a long journey. It all started with a commitment and then discipline and consistency until you reach your goal. Yes?
What would be your advice for if someone else wanted to join?
If someone wants to be a fighter, well, there's, you know, it's a very hard way to make a living. Very often I have people coming to me with their kids. They're like, hey, George, this guy, my kid's gonna be the next world champion. I wish, and I really hope so, and I wish everyone the best. But it's a hard way to make a living. And one thing I can tell you, if your goal is to become world champion, don't put your eggs in the same basket. What I mean by that, don't stop school, don't neglect school and education. Because education, I think, should be your priority, especially for the young people. I never stopped school. I stayed educated through all my journey. Because for me, it was important to have an assurance. Because imagine if you want to become a fighter and something happened, you get hit by a car, you get an injury, and if you're 30 years old, you have nothing else that you can fall back into. You have no education. So what are you gonna do? So that's why I'm saying, yes, if you want to be an athlete, a fighter, a singer, and by the way, it's not only to mix martial arts. Same thing in hockey, baseball, an actor, an artist, like anything. You need to have education. Guys, it's very important. I know it's hard. I know it, for some of them, they roll their eyes, but it's very important. You have teachers that are there, they give their heart and soul to you, to teach you. Very important, respect that, because they make big sacrifice every morning, coming teaching you mathematics, science, English. These are very important for you to learn, because if you don't have that, you cannot choose a career. And yeah, maybe you're gonna be an athlete or an actor or whatever you want to become, but maybe something will happen down the line. Maybe you're gonna change your mind. You're not the same person at 20 that you are at 10 years old, and you're not the same person at 30 that you will be at 20. You might change. Your perspective will change. Your idea will change. And if it changes and you don't have the education to back it up, you end up with nothing. So yes, work hard, pursue your dream, but make sure you stay educated, guys. Especially the young kids here that I see. Education, very important, very important. And if you stay educated, it's going to help you think better. And if you think better, you make better choice. And if you make better choice, maybe it's going to help you to reach your goal. Even if your goal is to be a fighter, I made some choices in my life, some great choice that saved me from a lot of trouble, that maybe if I would not have the education, I would not have made the right choice. So the brain, it's the most important part of your body, your head. So stay educated. That's one of the pieces of advice I can tell you. Very important.
Yes. What happened to you in the Bronx?
In what?
In the Bronx.
Oh, in the Bronx! The Bronx. It's a good idea, a good question. So when I was a kid, I wanted to go to New York. I told you the story before, but I know some people just arrived. I wanted to learn jiu-jitsu, and I had to travel from my hometown to drive all the way to New York, Manhattan, to Henzo Gracie Academy. And back then, they did not have GPS like today. We didn't have the cell phone. And I did not have cell phone when I was 16 years old. So I had to follow a MapQuest, which is hard. So I lost myself in the Bronx, and I remember my dad, he was watching the news. He's like, oh my God, there's so many crimes in New York, it's dangerous. And the Bronx was one of the places where it was the high crime. So he said, son, if you go to New York, I don't approve, but if you go to New York, don't go in the Bronx, it's dangerous. So I ended up losing myself in the Bronx near the Yankees Stadium. And to my great, I was amazed. People were very nice because I asked, where is Manhattan? Donde está Manhattan? They speak Spanish very often there. And everybody was nice to me. They showed me the way how to get back on the good street. And I found my way back, and I went back home. I told my dad, I said, Dad, you're wrong. The media wants you to believe that it's dangerous. Yeah, maybe it is dangerous, but most of the people that live there, they work hard, they were very, very, very nice. So don't always listen to what you, don't always believe what you see on TV. It's sometimes it's propaganda. People were very, very nice to me there, and was very lucky. Of course, if you go there at night and you show up your money, and maybe you will get robbed, but most people there were very, very nice to me. Yes?
Did you have kids?
Yes! I have 5, a big family. Very important, and that's one of the reasons why I retired. I wanted to live long and healthy, to be a parent and perhaps a grandparent one day.
All right, everybody, we are going to be doing the last 5 questions or so, and then we are going to start with the photo and autograph session, which we will coordinate here after they're done. So we're going to be finalizing about 5 more questions or so. I know there's some new students coming in, so we'll do some more questions, Q&As, and then we will set up in about 15 minutes for the photo and autograph session, please.
Mr. St. Pierre, as I'm walking over there to grab a question, what meal of the day is most important and why?
The meal of the day, okay, good question. They say that the most important meal of the day, everybody says, is breakfast. That's what everybody says. But, to me, it could be any meal. One thing is, like everybody has a different lifestyle, different schedule. When I was in 2017, I was diagnosed with a condition called ulcerative colitis. It's an inflammation of the colon and intestine. And I was on heavy medication. I thought I had a big problem. So when I had my diagnostic, I found out I was ulcerative colitis. So I went to Toronto and I met with a doctor called Jason Fong. And he convinced me to try a time-restricted fasting program, and I did, and it changes my life. I mean, might not be a good idea if you're a kid or a teenager to do that because you're still growing. But if you're an adult, fasting is very worth investigating. Probably the oldest remedy on the planet. You have to check out with your doctor. Of course, everyone has different condition. But if you ask me the best meal of the day, I rarely have breakfast. I never have breakfast because I do time-restricted eating. But I think if you have a good diet, you eat well, stop. Sugar is bad, even though it tastes good, and I'm no different than everyone else. I love sugar. But basically, if you want to be healthy, I believe everybody try to make it so complicated. You need to burn more than you consume. So burn more calories than you consume. It's mathematical. If you do that, your chance of being healthy, I believe, are much higher than someone who does not do that.
How much wins do you have?
How much wins do I have? I have professionally, I have like 22 wins. I fought, I won 11 world title. but I have a lot of losses, and not on my professional record, but in my life in general, I have a lot of loss. People don't talk about their loss, but I talk about it because that's what made me. Before I become champion or even professional, I competed in karate, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, different combat sport, and I lost multiple times. And I'm glad I did, because when you lose, it allows you to improve, because you can learn why you lose, and it makes you a setback. But two things can happen. You can lose your confidence and give up, or you can learn from it and improve and get better. And everybody loses in life, and I lose multiple times, and that's what allowed me to grow and to improve and to get to where I am. So it's not a bad thing. A loss is not a bad thing. It's a way that you can use to improve. Remember that.
Can you yell really loud?
Yes.
What inspired you to come here today?
What inspired me to come here today? Well, I've been very fortunate. I got in touch with some friend, Derek. Derek is here with us. He's the one who organized it with the people in the community. I like to come talk to the community, try to motivate them. A lot of the communities, sometimes they have problem related sometimes to drugs and alcohol. And growing up, I had the same problem in my family. And one thing I can tell you, if you're listening to me right now, my dad was drinking when I was young. My dad is an alcoholic. He stopped drinking when I was a teenager. And I saw how hard it was for him to stop drinking. I saw the struggle. And for me, I don't see it as a negative thing. Yes, it was hard when I was young and I was a kid because he was drinking. But when he stopped drinking, it re-solidified my family. And he became to me a source of inspiration. And I know a lot of you, if some of you listen to me right now and have a drinking problem, I can tell you that it's never too late to make the right choice. By stopping and making the right choice, you can inspire your kid to do better. And they will notice a huge difference. And it's never too late to make the right choice. So keep that in mind. So for me, it's very important to come here and have a positive message to the community. That's why I'm here today. Yes? So my parents in the beginning, they did not like the idea of me going and to fight. They didn't want that for me. They wanted me to stay at school, stay educated, and choose a normal job. But I was stubborn. I knew what I wanted, and it was a dream for me. And of course, my parents were under the influence of the media. The media were portraying us as a human cockfighting barbarian. At the time, that's how it was. And I understand, because it's a very violent sport. It's a sport that you can die. You can say, I play hockey, I play baseball, but you don't play fighting. So you can die out there. And it's normal for my mom or my dad, they didn't want that for their son. They don't want their son to take this risk. Same thing for me. I wouldn't want my kid to follow the same path as me. If they're gonna have the freedom to choose whatever they want for their life, but I hope they don't choose that path. It's a terrible way to make a living. Only one on a million makes it. How many people and athletes I've seen in the sport like finish physically battered and broke? Tons of it. And not only in fighting, in hockey, baseball, fighting might be worse because of the damage. But same thing in hockey. How many wants to play in NHL? How many succeed? You only hear about the successful stories, but you don't hear about the real percentage of people that fail. And this is the sad truth. So there's a lot of people that fail, but you don't hear about them. But that's the reality. So that's why when I talk to the kid, I always tell them, make sure you stay educated. Education, it's like an assurance. It's going to help you to have a better life and to think better. And if something happened to you down the line, if you want to be an athlete, at least you fall back on something that can cover you. Very important. Yes? Oh yeah! I have different signature move and takedown. My signature move in striking was my Superman punch. I like to do it with my lead. I fake a kick, and then I fake the kick. Boom! I was known for this one. Or with the rear, you kick, you pretend you go for a kick, and you go. On the ground, I like a kimura. Kimura is an armbar that you break the rotator cuff of your opponent. And I like also the Adaka Jimmy. Adaka Jimmy is a choke that if you hold someone in a choke and he doesn't tap, you can make him pass out in 3 to 5 seconds. And that's how I won my last fight with Michael Bisping in New York at the Madison Square Garden. He refused to tap, so he passed out. And the referee had to stop the fight. Yes. That I train? I never train people. I train with people. They have the coaches, but I'm very fortunate I had the chance to train with a lot of great fighters and a lot of champions. Rashad Evans, John Jones. Like I trained with a lot of guys that were champions, and I'm very fortunate for that. Nathan Mark Ward. I trained with a lot of guys, a lot of fighters that that turns out to be great fighters, or even some of them were champions. Yes. I'm sorry, can you speak louder, please? Oh, BATTLEFORD, yeah, that's a good question. So I'm a fighter, but I had the chance to play in movies. If some of you are fans of a superhero, especially the Marvel Universe, I was in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series on Disney+. So I play the role of Batroc. Batroc is a French mercenary. He's a bad guy. I don't know why. I try to be nice, but they always like to make me portray a bad guy. So, but I like to play the bad guy better than the good guy, because I always thought that the bad guys are more charismatic, especially in movies. And so I played Batroc the Leaper. I had the chance to shoot some scenes with Chris Evans, with Anthony Mackie. But one thing you need to understand is that when I shoot a fight scene, most of the fight scene is done with the stunt double. They're not done with the real actors. Because the real actor, they cannot afford to take the risk of the main actor to get hurt. It would delay the whole production. So when we shoot a movie, especially the action scene, I can do the action scene because I'm a martial artist. I can do it myself. But most of the fight scene, I do the dialogue with the actor because they need the face. But most of the action scene, I do it with their stunt double. And even for myself, there's certain sequence of the scene that I need a stunt double myself, because I cannot do a triple backflip on the concrete, and these guys are real professional, and they're truly the reasons like why those movies look so good, especially the action scenes. The stunt people and the stunt coordinator, they're amazing, and it was a privilege for me to learn and to work with them. Yes? Is there other question? Yes. People get bullied? Yes. Okay, good question. People that are victim of bullying. Bullying in my time is probably different than what it is nowadays. In my time, the way it was happening is there were guys that pick on you, they beat you up. It was more physical. Nowadays, it's different because of social media. They're gonna try to humiliate you. They put videos of you, they make fun of you online. So it's more emotional. It could be physical too, but it's more emotional. I believe, first, if you're a victim of bullying, you need to seek help. Don't be afraid, don't be ashamed to talk about it. It could happen to everyone. And as a matter of fact, it happened, some of the greatest people that achieved the greatest thing, it happened to them. So it's not a bad thing in a way, it's a bad thing now, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So if you learn how to overcome it, it will make you stronger to overcome any other obstacle in life. So first you need to seek help. Ask for help. Your parent, your teacher, people at school, or older people than you if you're friend with. And one thing I think that is important to consider is most of the time the people that are victim of bullying is because they lack confidence. And one way you can build up your confidence is by finding yourself a passion. What do you like to do in life? For me, I choose sports, and actually karate, and I found love in karate, and I developed a certain skill which made me better, and because it made me better, it made me confident. For you, it could be art, could be hockey, could be anything, science, you need music. You need to find something that you love. And once you love it, it will be easier for you to put in the work and to improve it, to get better at it. And if you get better at something, it improves your confidence. Because you know you get better at something, it increases your confidence. And it will reflect on your action, on how you carry yourself throughout the day. This is one of the main things I would say.
All right, everyone. We're almost closing down the Q&A. We're going to have just a couple more. Then we're going to jump into we're going to have a break for lunch, and then we will resume the photos and the autograph session, and we'll start at 12:30. So I know that lunch is going to be served here. So we'll do a couple more questions, and I have a request here, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, apparently it's Luke's birthday today, so happy birthday, Luke. 11 years old. Who's Luke? Where is Luke?
Stand up, Luke.
Luke, stand up, I want to see
There's a
you.
gentleman right there, Luke's right there, black hat. No? Where's Luke? Is Luke here?
Where's Luke? Luke, yeah, there we go. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you, Luke.
And a question over here, a couple more questions, and then we're going to break for lunch, guys.
I retire in November, no, it's not true. My last fight was in November 2017. And I retired a year after, in 2018. Yeah, Nick Diaz, a lot of people like that fight because, and Nick Diaz is a special fighter. When he was in his prime, he was so good. He was putting so much pressure on you as the fight goes on because Nick Diaz, he's someone that has an incredible endurance and he's very resilient. And when he fights, he's talking to you and he's taunting you and he's insulting you and saying stuff to you because he wants you to give him, try to give him his best shot and to unleash all your energy on him. And after that, because you can do that if you become emotional, and once you do that, you're drained. Now you come forward to finish a job. So I know, because before I fought him, I studied him, and I know that was the way that he fights. So I was prepared. So I was timing myself in a way that when I was fighting Nick Diaz, as soon as he was trying to open his mouth to insult me, as soon as I saw his mouth open, I jab him right in the mouth, and that's one of the things I did to prepare myself to it. But it was a good fight. I'm sorry. My favorite fight? Well, there is a lot of favorite fight of me. I like my fight. The first time I won the title was my favorite fight, but the fight that I watched, I really enjoyed the fight with, I like the fight with Forrest Griffin and Stefan Bonner at the end of the Ultimate Fighter. I think it will probably, to the eyes of a lot of the fans, it's probably known as one of the best fights in the UFC history. And I like also the format. Before, when you were young, you were not even born, was an organization called Pride Fighting Championship, and they used to have a great fight there as well, in Japan. A lot of time when I was in UFC, I fought guys that like to trash talk, and very often people say, did it bother you? Not really, because one of the things I learned when I was young and I was victim of bullying, I learned how to put a shield around myself, to not be affected emotionally when someone trash talk you. And it's something I've learned because I was a victim of bullying. So it turns out that bullying helped me later on in my life. Bullying, it was a bad experience to me growing up, but it turns out to be an asset later on in my life because I developed certain skills. And what I did is very important in combat. Like in combat sport, it's a sport where people like to trash talk. I'm very good at putting a shield on myself to not be emotional when someone insults me, but I'm not so good at doing the same thing if someone insults someone that I love. So that's why I always try to keep my private life private, so nobody has ammunition to get to me. And for me, I don't see it personal. I see it as a way for them to get into my head because they want to win. And after the fight, no matter what happened, I shake hands. And a lot of the guys that trash talk before our fight, now I'm friend with them. Like Michael Bisping, I'm good friend with them. I'm good friend with Michael Bisping, with Matt Serra, all the guys. I'm friend, even Nick Diaz. I'm not friend, but I have no problem with Nick Diaz. We shook hands, no problem.
All right, thanks you, Mr. St. Pierre. Everybody, let's give him a round of applause, show our appreciation.
Thank you.
We're going to break for lunch now. Bring me lunch. And then here, 12:30, we'll line up and we'll do some pictures and some stuff. So thanks again, Mr. St. Pierre, for coming out and teaching us all these great
Thank
things.
you. And yeah, don't be shy. Come meet me for a picture, autograph. 12:30, guys. I see you soon.
What do you want to say? Where's the camera? Testing 1 2. Test 1 2. We're live. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the show here. George St. Pierre. We're just handing out lunches here for the students of the Battleford region. I've got Mayor Leslie with me, right? Mayor, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm doing good. Good to see you again here. What do you think of George St. Pierre here coming to your community and speaking to all the young people here?
You know, I think we're blessed. And, you know, I wasn't sure if the younger generation knew who he was, like our generation does, because the MMA was big, UFC, but response, and it's one of the events I think where I've seen the kids pay attention the most. The cell phones didn't come out. They weren't really goofing off. They were very much enthralled and focused on what he brought here today. And I'm grateful for his message. And if one kid walks away with a positive thought from today, then it was well worth it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, his presentation's about 30 minutes long, but a lot of questions came after too, you know, which is one of the important things for young people to engage. I understand you guys have a dojo here that you're going to be showing him around. Tell us a bit about that and kind of what it means to have George St. Pierre come and, you know, maybe shed some light or some inspiration.
Yeah, a local guy, Corey, he's been trying at the mixed martial arts off and on and as a career, and he opened up a local dojo here, and he teaches a lot of youth. He's got youth from the Battlefords. He's got some from Sweetgrass and other nations that he teaches one-on-one. And I just thought, you know, it'd be a great opportunity to bring George St. Pierre over there and let these kids who are trying to learn the discipline and the focus of mixed martial art fighting. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't know, just watching the kids' faces to see him today, so to see some of these kids get a live opportunity with these kids or with George, I think it's just great for our community.
Yeah, it's good for sure. You know, a lot of times this may be the only time you get to experience, meet someone, you know, like George St. Pierre. You know, he's talking about some of his fights. What is one of your favorite fights with George St. Pierre?
Oh, you know, I think any time when he was considered the underdog, mm-hmm. right? Or just kind of you know, when I think sitting inside a lounge or wherever you're watching the fight in the day, you're like, okay, like you could hear the crowd deflate that, okay, he's gonna lose this, and then he comes back. Like, he's just determination. Anytime he came back with determination and resiliency and won the fight, mm-hmm. I think I don't remember who he fought, but I just remember that he was bloody and he was a mess, and there's no way he should have won that fight. And by the end of the round, he won, right? And I think those are the messages I've paid attention that made GSP, you know, huge to me. Is just he never gave up.
Yeah, you never give up. So, Mayor, I want to thank you for joining me here once again, and you know, enjoy your day with GSP and some of the showing them around Dorp Alfred.
You betcha. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We're live here. We're going to try to get GSP interviewed here today, I believe. But I think that is the end of the live stream here. Thank you. Stay tuned. Check out iops.ca for your local job postings. And, you know, I look forward to seeing you guys at the next event. Masicho.
Awesome.
We're live.
Thanks, man.